And what about the nutritional aspect? Like they say that it's rich in calcium and it's rich in protein, and so it's a must for children and women of certain age. But most poor people generally depend on milk and curd for their minimal uh, protein requirements.
See, this too is a misconception. And one does not quite need spirituality to refute this. So, if you look at the weight of nutrients obtained per rupee spent, then the nutrients that one can obtain from flesh or milk products per rupee spent is either comparable to or many a times even lower than the weight of ingredients one can obtain from purely vegan products. So it is a myth that veganism can be afforded only by the relatively resourceful. There is enough medical literature now available to conclusively prove that if you want to live a compassionate vegan lifestyle, it is not only not expensive, it may actually turn out to be economically more feasible than an animal or animal product milk based diet. As far as nutrients are concerned, you see, when today you have top athletes, champions in tennis, cricket, several other sports, even in physically very, very demanding disciplines like bodybuilding, like weightlifting, like boxing. And these are the people who are not only vegan, but they actually actively aver that their performances raised to another dimension after they turned vegan. So not only are they saying that they are able to sustain their performances even while being vegan, what they are saying is that their top level world beating performances are due to veganism. Surely this does not point towards a deficiency of nutrients in their body. And we have more and more research and medical material emerging every day. Obviously, there is material to the contrary as well. But let's also remember the times we are living in. The vegan movement is still in its infancy, and it is pitted against the powerful forces of animal agriculture, the meat industry, the leather industry, animal products industry, the beauty products industry. So there are industries worth trillions of dollars that are threatened by veganism. And obviously, these industries would pour money into sponsored research reports that would rail against veganism. But if you go to credible agencies, you read what they are saying, you find out it works. It seriously works. Now, coming to Ayurveda, again you see, it's a system of medicine. And obviously it will talk of firstly stuff that is medicinal, because its primary concern is not compassion but treatment of the ailing individual. Secondly, because Ayurveda has its roots very much in India, therefore it would talk of its
Locally available.
stuff that is locally available, and herbs and other ingredients that can be easily sourced. So these two things have to be remembered. Ayurveda, I'm not saying does not care for animals, but that cannot be its primary concern. By definition, that cannot be its primary concern. Its primary concern is heal the human being, and whatever it takes for that. So many people may not know this, but Ayurveda, even for certain ailments, recommends flesh consumption. For certain diseases, Ayurveda would say, for example, that you must take pork and boil it, and then the rasa that you have, the soup, that has to be taken for so many days. Now, if that involves slaughtering that animal, which it obviously would, so be it. The life of the man is more precious, and that is the defined domain of a medical system of treatment. So you cannot fault it for that. But one cannot really quote Ayurveda to justify slaughtering a pig. What Ayurveda is saying is that in that special condition, this is what would work. Whereas veganism is a lifestyle. Also, you see, now at this point when we are saying that when there is a choice, when there is a trade-off between one's sense of compassion and a medical situation that requires flesh consumption, let's say in the Ayurvedic domain there is a situation that demands that one consumes the flesh of a pigeon. That too has been recommended in certain situations. One consumes the flesh of a pigeon or fish or something. Now is the time when one has to really decide what is it that one values more, his body or his love. It's a cliched word, but there is no other word available for it, so I have to ask this. And there have been people who have said that they would rather die than kill others for the sake of their life. But then this is not something that can be institutionalized. This has to be an individual call, and the individual has to decide as per his level of spiritual advancement and as per the depth of his heart. Someone may say, fine, my life is quite important, and if to sustain my life, a few animals are to be slaughtered every day, fine. Somebody might even go to the extent of saying, my life is so important that to sustain my life, if a few human beings are to be slaughtered every day, fine. We have had such examples in history. There have been myths prevailing at certain periods of time in certain places where it was thought that man's flesh or the fresh blood of a young man's heart is very useful in curing old age related diseases. So there have been kings who would get young people slaughtered and have fresh blood from their heart and use them. Obviously, that had no a scientific basis. But let's say even if there is actually a factual and scientific basis, and that says that you must have cod liver oil,
Would you go to that extent?
do you really want to take that? And that's a highly personal call. Because it is not really necessary to just add a few more years to one's life at the cost of bringing suffering to other people, other species, other people, and any living form, or even at the cost of destroying rivers and mountains and jungles. But then, as I said, that cannot be mandated or institutionalized. That is something that one has to decide for himself. Having said that, I do not want it to mean that veganism implies a reduction in one's lifespan or a compromise on one's health. On the other hand, even if one is not driven by compassion, there are strongly medical reasons and purely medical reasons that should be compelling enough to guide one towards veganism. Also, what is forgotten when we talk of milk and curd is the relation between the milk products industry and the meat industry. There is a very strong relation, but people conveniently try to forget it or ignore it. A religious Hindu or a pious Jain would say, but I take only milk and curd. I do not take meat. And then he would absolve himself of any kind of guilt of animal slaughter. He would say, no. I worship the cow and all I draw from her is the milk. I do not take her flesh, obviously. That's sacrilege. What they forget is that India is not for nothing the biggest beef exporter of the world, or the second largest beef exporter probably. Where is all that beef coming from? So, why don't we clearly see that the same cow that is used, or buffalo, because most of the beef that is exported is buffalo meat, that the same cow or buffalo that is today used to extract milk from her is tomorrow slaughtered for the sake of flesh. You see, after all, if you are looking at the cow or the buffalo as an economic asset, why won't you want to draw and extract value from that economic asset right till the last rupee? So when the animal is in the reproductive age, you draw value from her through her milk. And needless to say, the process of having her deliver milk is a highly cruel process which involves forced insemination and all other kinds of cruelties which are not visible to the final consumer of the milk, so he gladly consumes it. So when she can give milk, we take milk from her. We don't take milk from her, we extract milk from her. And when she cannot give milk, and even after that, at least 5 to 7 years of her age still remain, what do you do with her? You cannot. But then you cannot.
That's what most people do.
That's what some people do. You know, most of those cattle are not found on roads. The number of cows that are, or buffaloes that are used to give us dairy is extremely, extremely large. What we find roaming on the roads is probably not even 10 to 20% of them.
A small fraction.
Very small fraction. Where have the rest of them gone? They have all gone to the slaughterhouses. Because to keep such a large animal alive requires economic resources. Why would the farmer keep putting in money to bring fodder and protection to a buffalo that can no more give milk? And if the farmer has been trained to look at the animal only as an economic asset, then it makes quick and immediate economic sense to just sell off the buffalo to the slaughterhouse. And that is what is happening. So, the one who is consuming milk is actually very much guilty of getting the animal slaughtered as well. The milk industry and the meat industry are hand in glove. Yeah, they are in tandem. And one really cannot be without the other. That is the case in India, and that is also the case worldwide. So, once that correlation becomes clear to people, once people are in knowledge of facts, then it would be far easier for them to take decisions.